Good morning, Savannah. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Councilwoman Lanier.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're here this morning at Communities, and we're here this morning to talk over some situations that we have within our communities, and we're trying to get some answers and trying to find out some information so that we
Yes.
can pass it along to our community members. So, with that being said, we're going to let Alderman Lanier introduce herself this morning. Good morning again.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation to the vulnerable communities. Of course, the majority of the first district is just that vulnerable. And I'm glad for our opportunity to be able to share information and have a dialogue, a discussion, and to really let your public know, let my public know, let the public know my position, and as a leader where I would like to see our trajectory, the direction we go in as a community. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, we would always love to have you here. But with much controversy in your service to the first district and watching the things that you do, we wonder how much more can be done in your term of office.
Mhm. Okay, so in the remainder of this term, which is what do we have? 6 months. Um, I think you'll see more of the type policies that I've been advocating for come to the table. Um, Believe it or not, although we haven't been able to quite implement as much as we needed to implement in terms of policy changes, the good thing is I have been able to bring those issues of the vulnerable community to the table. In the past, in the first district, all of our leaders have come out of Cloverdale. That's our creme de la creme neighborhood on the west side. We're so proud of Cloverdale because it reminds us of moving on up. You know, it's the upwardly mobile community, and so therefore you had a certain status and a certain uh, status quo at the time, but now to have a voice on the council that is not only a female this time, but a person that is a product and still lives in the vulnerable community. So the issues that I bring to the table, and I'm able to also bring solutions. And that's the good thing is it has taken this 3.5 years to pivot to because the what I advocate is a complete change in the trajectory, a complete pivot in policies from where the city as a whole has been gone. And so that's not always readily received, but to get it on the citywide platform, they hear me. They may not put me in the Savannah Morning News, and they may not put me on the TOC or SAV based on what I'm saying regarding policy, but the people hear me. And people are in agreement because what I propose is a more people driven, citizen driven type policy and community.
Okay. Your predecessor had 16 years, and in the opinion of some of your constituents, did extraordinarily little in his term. How do you feel today you are doing now?
Well, I think I would like to pose this as the question. So you stated a fact that the current mayor has now been in office 20 years, 16 of those years being in this seat, sitting in the first district. That's a fact. It's also a fact I'm in my 3.5 year point. Now, the question is this: if we both are representative of this district, the first district, if we both live in this first district,
We had some kind of interruption there, but Alderman Lanier will be back shortly. I think that we were talking about 16 years of service from a predecessor that her constituents uh, wasn't pleased at all. In fact, living in the first district, there's
Could
a
you hear
lot of
me?
believed to be deserved. So we have to look and see what is going on to find out.
If you could give me a second, I think you could hear me. I got a power cord coming in. That should help.
All right. Yeah. So we living in the first district myself. There's some things that we look at that needed to be done for a while. Go ahead,
I
Alderman Lanier.
apologize. I had to get my power cord, but I think it's important for all of us to ponder on this. These two leaders, one at the 20-year mark, one at the 3.5-year mark, and still the people don't see any movement in the district. What's the problem? Now, this new leader, that's me, and the 16-year leader, why aren't we voting together, up or down? Why are we voting like this? There's your problem. Why aren't we together? I challenge anyone to question, why aren't your two first district 20-year and 3.5-year leaders, why aren't we voting together? Somebody's out of sync, because if we had those two moving together, then we could do something. That's your question. Now, when you answer that, based on the policies that I have proposed in the 3.5 years that have not made it to daylight, and a few have, and the 16 years of what we got then, look at that. Maybe my policies haven't been implemented, and that's by design, because you need 5 votes to move anything. Johnson and Lanier should be voting together, those same two. So therefore, we need how many more? 3 more. We got Blakely, we got Gibson Carter. So we should automatically have 4 people voting and pulling for the first district. We should have 4, and let us go out and get 5. Come on, Shabazz. Come on, Leggett. Come on, somebody. Help us pull up the rear to get some policies passed for the first district. But when you got those 2, 3 of those people actually pulling one way and the others going the other, that's your question. So therefore, it's a leadership. It's a leadership and strategic direction that's being chosen. None of this stuff is by happenstance. This is by choice, by design, Mr. Irwin.
Well, I tell you, as you ride through the neighborhoods in the first district, there's a lot of neighborhoods that need speed bumps and all those kind of traffic control. You go to the east side of Savannah, you find speed bumps everywhere.
You're tripping over them. Some of them don't even make sense because they're in areas like little roundabouts that's so tight you can't even navigate your vehicle around them. But I understand what you're saying. But let me say this: the problems that persist on the west side, the ones that you name, and I have a stack and a file and a list of others, not things that I thought of, but when I sit down with the presidents and the vice presidents and even people who aren't members of the associations, we know the problems. So therefore, let's document these problems. When I first got in office, I created a form that was a neighborhood assessment form, and I gave it to all the neighborhood association presidents and their boards for them to fill out, to tell me what their problems were in terms of the roads, the speed bumps, the drainage, the trash, the anything. my baby, my desires about economic development, but these were everyday basic quality of life services that people expect that weren't happening at the level that they should have been happening in. Indicative of low wealth, marginalized community, where we were seeing these things. Every ism or every case study that you could read about in a sociology book that creates conditions that make neighborhoods poor and impoverished exists on this west side. So nothing that ails us that we cannot cure with some policy initiatives and some putting the resources where they really need to go. So I have submitted those forms to management. I have sent numerous emails, texts, and I'm constantly in all of our meetings. And you could go online and go to the city site and pull up all of the city council former meetings and the workshops in the meeting, advocating for these desires, not only wants, but needs, basic needs for my constituents. So I say that to tell you everything that ails us, they know about it downtown. It's no secret. My mouth is open and I'm telling them I am the spokesperson for this district, and they know because of this mouth and these fingers what ails the district. Now, the question is, after it leaves me and go to them with no uncertain doubt of what the people need, what happens then? That's what's broken. Let's figure out why when I introduce these initiatives or make these requests that there's no satisfaction. Now, because I could go put on my coveralls from the riverfront and go out there with a sledgehammer and some shovels and rent a backhoe and do it myself, because I've done everything else that I'm supposed to do as an alderwoman to take my people's initiatives to the table. Now, let's find out what's broken downtown in City Hall. One thing is this. We have a change in the rules of council that require 5 votes. And if I only have 2 other sisters on that council that I can depend on, Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter and Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely, to have my back when I take my people issues to the table, if I only could depend on their votes, that's your problem right there.
You guys, I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, so what's next for District 1? I know that we have been advocating on the west side for a long time for supermarkets in the district. What does it look like now?
Let me say this, Mr. Irwin. I just have to be straight up. I have never been one to advocate for the grocery store. I have been an advocate for a community market, a huge live market that's occupied by our local urban farmers, occupied by our local produce vendors, occupied by our regional farmers, jobs being created, connected to an entrepreneur center where people can go in and not only get into a food-related business or a fresh food source-related business, but they could start any kind of business that their creative minds can imagine. That's what I'm supporting. I'm supporting the training center in the same area, but that's another project right now that's on the table on the west side. But I'm supporting the market because what it does is keep our dollars local in this corridor. There are 10 neighborhoods in this corridor, and that waterworks buildings sit in that canal district, sit right there smack dab in the center of 10 neighborhoods in a corridor that had always from their beginnings been underinvested in. So the elders before me, the leaders before me, they advocated for an investment with city leaders at the time, and they were promised an investment in order to draw public investment. They were promised a private investment, and it came in the in the sense of an arena in a canal district. That's the investment. So that investment is intended to upbuild this corridor, to upbuild these neighborhoods, to upbuild our community, and in this case, our Black community. It's not meant to push us out so another community could come in. So therefore, where are our policies to make sure that we maintain the people who live here, and so people could age in place, build wealth in place, and make their equity work for them because of the investment that was made. That's the work. Those are the policies that we're supposed to be putting in place, and those are the type policies that I have been working on and submitted to councils, like those like gentrification exemption, rent management. These are the type policies that we need. Folks being able to tap into the affordable housing fund to adequately fix their homes. So these are the type policies that I've been presenting that will help people up. And in addition, fighting for drainage equity. That's maybe the best way I could put it, because it's been systemic racism and structural racism is the reason that we have the drainage problems, and so therefore we really need to place equity and putting the resources where they need to be. It's going to take a great sum, but we're not acting like that's our priority, and it should be.
You mentioned affordable housing just now. The state of Georgia itself has, from my understanding, has invested $300 million, $30 million, I'm sorry, $3 million. $3 million, I don't want to say the wrong thing. $3 million into affordable housing into the city of Savannah. All we see though is housing projects, people building these big complexes, but nobody's talking about affordable for people of low income. How's that working out?
It's not working out, and that's why you see an escalation in the homelessness, roofless population. That's why you see the mothers and the children living in these hotels at the rate they are. People living in the woods. This is part of the problem. People are even living, they're not even being counted, living in relatives' homes, couch surfing, that kind of thing. It's happening at a rate where it should not be as high. So 3 million isn't a whole lot for the problem. I hope it's more than that. But where I am with that is where we can impact it is in the policy arena. And so we have some funds. We're in control of these resources. So that's why I recommended and requested an inclusionary zoning. Some places call it inclusionary housing. So if there is a development that's built that has X amount of units, a percentage of those units will have to be set aside for low to moderate income residents. And that way we won't have areas where we have consolidated poverty or consolidated wealth. It's more of a mixed income type model, and it's one that brings equity because all people at all income levels need some place to stay. So these are the type policies that I have been presenting that will help us drive, manage the part that we can manage to help with the homelessness or the affordability piece of the puzzle. And so like I said before, it's nothing that ails us that we cannot create policies to solve. We just have to have the political will. And what the political will is, what that looks like, is 5 votes.
All right, I agree with you. We have we sit back a lot of time, and a lot of people say, "Well, we're not doing nothing at A. Philip Randolph Institute," but we've been in meetings with different people, and we understand that there are programs that even the state has had that the state have that they would come in and help as far as tax breaks to help with affordable housing. Uh, but they don't seem to have the like you said that you don't have the 5 votes, and they don't have the city volunteering to help. So how do we solve this problem?
Well, I don't want to be just crass, but remember in November,
I hear you. I
that's where
hear
your
you.
political will come from. And I'm gonna say this: we cannot solve these issues. We've been sitting on these things. We know all about it. I'm sick of talking about what the problems are. We know, everyone knows. I'm talking about solutions, and we bring solutions to the table. We bring viable, best practice policies and solutions to the table, and they're not being met and embraced and applied. Let me give you an example, Mr. Irwin. So about 2 months ago, the good folks on River Street decided they wanted a community investment district. It's a good policy for a wealthy area where they could tax themselves more to reinvest that money into infrastructure and certain things. And so it's really good. I'm not hating on the policy, it's a good policy. But my thing is this: I heard about it for the first time about 2 months ago in the Savannah Morning News, and we've already voted on it and it's passed already. So I have been asking and submitting policy initiatives and solutions from day one, not before day one, before I ever even got elected, and everything that I brought, most of it has been thrown out. But I've seen some semblances of some of my requests and some other things, but it watered down, not really getting the intent of the of what's been recommended. So now we're back to the systemic piece. When we water this stuff down, we got to do it right. So these are some of the problems that we face. So when you all come to the city and your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, because that's what we do, then you have to have advocates and that political will. If it's something that would benefit the people, and if it's something that is will benefit the community, and then it's something that we should support. And we haven't really been operating that way, and that's why we need a different strategic plan with the next council. And we need to, in order to make the shift, we're going to have to shift from the strategic approach that this council and the last 5 councils have utilized the same strategic approach, and everybody's wondering why we getting what we get, and we've been operating on the same strategic plan. So we need a new strategic plan. We need a community benefit strategic approach. We need to have a community benefit ordinance that will allow 501c3 community groups to enter into legal binding community benefit agreements with developers. And so these are the type policies that I bring to the table that are different, but they work. They bring equity. We need to revisit everything we have on the books to make sure that it take out the bias, put the public's eyes on it, and let's clean up our government and make that shift so we could create this generational wealth with all of this new wealth coming through Savannah. You mean to tell me that you think we right here built Savannah, live right outside a stone throw from City Hall, and we're not going to reach out there and create this and grab some of these billions and these millions and create some young Black billionaires and millionaires and build generational wealth? And back to your grocery store comment, see, that grocery store to me is like a big vacuum hose reaching down into community to our stomachs, just pulling everything out, bad food, bad choices, nothing fresh, and all of our produce and product is going back to the top of that pyramid. To talk about the pyramid, I can't wait to do that one. But all of that is going back to the top, to one owner or board or whoever in some other city or somewhere. But if we do the market, it keeps our money local turning over in our economy to strengthen our local farmers. Those farmers at the Forsyth Farmers Market are making over $100,000 a year. Y'all see, huh? Y'all, somebody better tell us. But with that, with the market and sourcing local food with urban gardens and urban farms and regional gardens, this is where we need to go as far as our food security and take the control of our food out of anyone's hands but our own. Too much.
I agree with you. That's the question that had to be asked because we need to know. Uh, in the first district,
Yes, sir.
the problem has been crime has been a big problem for a while. Uh, what do you think now? Has it gotten any better? Has the police presence improved, or what's going on in the first district?
Well, let me say this. There's crime and there is the perception of crime. And the difference are the numbers. Look at your crime map. There's more crime downtown, around Congress Street and downtown. It's probably the hottest area around, the most crime ridden area in the city. But there is an impression that is attached to low wealth, vulnerable communities that is riddled with crime. Now, I can also tell you that there is a scientific correlation between crime and poverty, between crime and vulnerability. There's a correlation. When crime is up, vulnerability and low wealth and poverty is up. When you have when the vulnerability is down and you have more resources invested, crime is down. And there's science and there studies that prove that. So our poverty in the vulnerable communities have been so high. We got some little areas of 80 and 90% around Yamacraw. And then you have an average of 30% poverty in West Savannah. Our crime has been so high that our poverty has been so high. Some places around Yamacraw, 80 and 90% and 30% in West Savannah, the poverty. Then you would think that the crime would be through the roof to match that. But it's not. Look at the numbers. We have incidents. We have a lot that happen that property crimes. The kids get in these cars because they learn how to do it from the internet, and so that's everywhere. So we have those things. Big property every now and then. We have a gun-related crime. My family, we've been victim to crime. But it's not a crime-riddled community, especially if you look at the proportion of crime to poverty. The crime should be off the chart because the poverty is, but the crime is not. So therefore, you're talking about good people. We don't want the crime, but we need the resources to deal with the poverty. If we dealt with the resources, we wouldn't probably have zero crime because we're too busy being about our business.
You said that, and it brings about the thought of all the infrastructure work that's going on in the first district. And we have big plants out there, the old Union Camp, the port, everything else out there. But we have, if we look at the construction jobs where our people should be working, when we go on the job sites, if you look at the car tags, you find more Alabama, more Texas. You even find New Mexico tags out there. You find everything but Savannah, Georgia tags out there. Uh, and this also helps contribute to our problem because our money is not staying here in Savannah. It's leaving. It's going back to these different communities wherein we got people coming here to work and leaving and going back home. So I looked into the fact, the unions have been working, trying to get local work here, and they've been got some work. I can't tell a lie. They've got some work, and they got some work out of the arena, and but they got some work at some of the factories and a little bit on the port. So, but we need more work where we can put our hands on. We need to put our people to work. We need jobs where we can put our people to work and the opportunities to put our people to work. Uh, don't you agree with that?
Yes, sir. I definitely do. I feel the same way. I have visited some of those sites and looked at the tags myself. I have a lot of photos in my phone, just walking and getting tags after tag after tag, and they were all out of state, way off. So I agree. And so I felt the same way that our market was being overwhelmed. These people are recruited in, uh, but what we represent here and what they try to sell is workforce. Workforce. The workforce include the union. It include the unemployed, the underemployed. You and I both know that there's a whole workforce out there that's not really tapped into being in the pipeline to go out to the car factory. And that in itself, my friends, is power. You got the Air Force, you got the Army, you got all of this force, you got the Space Force, you got workforce. Workforce has its own power that they don't even know how to use. They have used it to someone else, in the wrong way. So I'm saying that to say I do see all of those tags and everything on those jobs, but we are in such a position to create, some jobs and put our people to work, with the money's in the economy, with the need of the housing, and it's going to bring other retail and commercial opportunities. There's so many opportunities that we just need a business center like the Waterworks building with the entrepreneur center and we just need an area to get our people up, put them in line for those type opportunities to create these other uh, income streams, revenue streams. With all of the growth that's going on, there's so many opportunities here that we're not even tapped into, and that's what we need to and want to do. And we can't cry over what we cried over yesterday or last year. We got to jump in there with both feet and be about it. And the opportunity is here, but your leadership at the top is going to determine that, or it's going to be status quo, business as usual. If y'all like it, I love it. If you want that business as usual, but if y'all ready to pivot, remember in November, and I'm sorry to sound like a cliche, but that's just the main thing. We can't get there with this team. And we should be getting there right about now. We should be getting there, but not with this leadership. We got to change some things. If y'all ready, because my kind of leadership represent us going this way, creating these young millionaires, creating this new economy, getting these equity policies in place, locking folks down, all this stuff being built. It's being built now, but we don't know who's going to be in it, but we got to position ourselves, because when you look around these electric cars and these high rises, you're going to see, people look like us. So we can't cry about keeping it one way. We got to jump in there, but the opportunities are all around us if we know how to line our strengths, align them and do it. And that starts with the political will at the top.
I agree, but I'm gonna make this statement, then I'm gonna move on to the next question I got for you. When we talk about the workforce, Savannah has an ample workforce. We just don't. We're not able to get the jobs here to bring the people home. We have a workforce that's second to none in the city of Savannah. Our unions have people spread out all across the United States because they can't get work right here in the city of Savannah. So if they could get the work here, we could put the money back into Savannah like it should be done. Now, I have a big question
Let
for
me
you.
say, let me just say
We're
this.
running close
We can
to
get the
our
work
time.
here. We can get it here. We can do that. Don't say we can't. We can. We can do
Yeah,
it. Okay.
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Uh, Everyone has been talking, and everybody is looking and waiting for the final decision. And if I missed it, then I need to be shot in the head on the weeping times. What can you tell us about the Weeping Town? What is the big picture uh, for that property?
The property that most people refer to as the Weeping Time, they're thinking about the old Bartow piece, and that is the piece that the Salvation Army purchased for whatever purpose. Uh, and so that is a piece of the Weeping Time property. But the largest piece that was still intact is the Bradley Lubber Company piece, just to the south of that piece, and that was sold back in December to a real estate firm. And so now the mayor is saying he has something working about a slave museum, and that should be the last thing we want in the heart of our community. Why in the world would we want a darn slave museum to ride past every day in the heart of our community? We know what we need. We've all, so that's not what we need. And it's unfortunate that we, you know, have to fight again for this land to be preserved in the way it should be preserved and to be utilized and as a benefit to this community that we deserve to have it benefit this community since it has represented such a horrid time. Let it be a benefit. Let us memorialize, going forward. And we don't need to be reminded with the slave museum. They put it in Brooklyn.
Wow.
So it still hadn't been settled, but some people are working behind the scenes, and the mayor obviously working with them. So we probably gonna have to end up out there in front of those bulldozers laying down for them to do the right thing, and or just remember in November, please, if it's just for that one reason, remember in November we need some new leadership so we could do the right thing by all of the people, the citizens, the residents of Savannah.
Wow. I tell you, it's amazing to think the statement you just made is something that should run on everyone's mind. Why would we need something to remind us of slavery? It's just something that, it irks me sometimes to think about it.
So, but what the conversation have been for the last 20 years. Well, not 20 years. We learned about it around '06, so it hadn't quite been 20 years. Is that we'll put something there that benefits. It's in the heart of the three neighborhoods. If you look at the map and you take, the three neighborhoods touch at a point. That's the point. The Weeping Town property. So it's at our heart on West Side in West Savannah. It's at our heart. It should be used to invest in this community, to uplift this community. We should be able to memorialize our ancestors that were sold from that property. We should have, it's enough property. We're talking about 40 acres or more to put some affordable housing, to put some retail or commercial piece, to have an economic driver, let the whole piece be something that just a wonderful addition to the center and the heart of this community. Put something cultural in there. And we're talking about a museum, a Weeping Time museum, and an ILA museum. And everyone loved the concept. We just have never been able to get our leadership to even understand that this should be driven by us ancestors, by us heirs of the people that were sold there. Let us drive it along with the larger community, but let us have the driving voice of making this a true community asset. At this point, it's a historic asset for this community. And when we develop an asset, it should be community driven. And that's what I propose, asset-based community development. It's a bottoms up approach that take your residents, your taxpayers who are your stockholders and your stakeholders. They should drive the development of their neighborhoods and community with the help of their employees who are the city and their representatives. But we do it backwards. We got the tail wagging the dog. We got the little elected leadership that's running around like like they're in control of everything, the Stapo. And so that's been a problem. Let the people drive it. It's the people's time.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about what's going on in the Arena District.
Okay, so there is a plan for the Canal District, and in that plan, and I made sure that back around 2014, it says that when there becomes a time to get benefits from the Canal District, because it was placed there to uplift the community. And when the time came that the benefits should come, it should be negotiated by a neighborhood advisory council, a NAC. So we have created a West Side Neighborhood Advisory Council, been working for the last couple of years and getting people from the 10 neighborhoods to join as in an alliance, so they could drive these resources back into their communities and their neighborhoods once we get a community benefit agreement. Now, we're standing in the way of that, the city and the leadership, because I have proposed that, and that's a good best practice model for this asset, that's cultural and economic asset that Arena should provide for the community through their alliance. And it's all set up. It's all set up. I just can't get 5 votes to pass the community benefit agreement. So that's happening. We got to get it now. I tell my people this, please, you all, if you take nothing else away, going forward on the west side of Savannah, the 10 neighborhoods in the Ivory Bay corridor, the 10 neighborhoods from the river to Ogeechee Road, the 10 neighborhoods, whoever or whatever entity controls that waterworks, that market and entrepreneur center, they're going to control the economics of this whole side of town. Now, we're ready to create generational wealth and age in place and assume our equity and learn how to lock our properties in the trust, so we could learn how to be rich people and wealthy people and pass it on for generations. If y'all ready to do that, then remember in November, we need to pivot. We have the policies in place. We got the Canal District plan set up. We got the Waterworks building, just got 20 million that we need to leverage. We got smart young people brilliant at the table who need jobs. I don't want no jobs. I'm just trying to get it set up because that's our charge. We got to make sure that this foundation of some new economic institutions are so strong for the people coming behind us that we'll just be sitting back on the beach and knowing that they have a foundation that they can work from, that create the wealth they need to secure their children and grandchildren. And the white folks even have to understand that it's a good thing, because when Savannah catch a cold, we catch the flu. And so therefore, when we do well, they're gonna do even better. And so, because why, a rising tide lifts all boats. So we all could do better, and it's coming, and we're gonna get ours, hook or crook. We're gonna get ours. That's the way we built. And it's a time you all gonna have to get used to knowing there are black millionaires living next to you in town, up in those high rises, driving these cars around town, because that's what's gonna happen. So let's pull on this thing together so we can get this infrastructure strong, so we can bring the clean jobs, the technology jobs, the creative jobs. We ready. We got some brilliant young people out there. They're depending on us, and we can't let them down.
All right, I tell you, it's there for us. All we have to do is follow through on some of the things that we've put in place. The one thing, and this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to talk about and I need you to do this one quickly for me. Ogeechee, where they have this salvage yard at. Have you been through there lately, early in the morning, when all those trucks are out there? That is about a death trap.
It's a horrible situation there. They're smothered in with their environmental problems, with the Geechee, with the truck place and with the concrete place. You got Tremont Park next door with the problems with those dirty industries next to them. You got problems over in Woodville with the trains and with the businesses blowing on them. Hudson Hill is suffocating to death. We're losing people actually dying because of the trucks in the port and Colonial Oil and International Paper. So we have a pandemic on the west side, and the people have been crying out. And we got $100 million about to be spent on North Lathrop Avenue, right next to Hudson Hill, with the new break bulk port, and nobody's saying anything about it. Colonial Oil and Norfolk Southern Railroad together. We got some life and death environmental issues in the city of Savannah, and they created their environmental department based on that. And now they're talking about sustainability and zero carbon, and that's okay. But they started out with environmental justice with us in order to even get monies to set up, and now we out here dying. But yes, sir, I saw the problem there with the truck, and it's a part of a larger problem, and it's a national problem for these near-port communities, and we're crying out for help.
Yes, ma'am. Alderman Lanier, Alderwoman Lanier, not Alderman, Alderwoman Lanier, we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. It has been a pleasure to have you on our program, The Vulnerable Community, this morning. And we hope that our listeners and our viewers got a whole lot out of this conversation this morning, because it is something that we have to do. We have to bring the information. We have to take it to the community, and we have to make sure that they understand what is going on here in the city of Savannah. So we thank you very much, and we look forward to having you here again. So we're so proud that you're doing the work that you're doing, and continue to do the work that you're doing. So we thank you very much, and to everyone else, y'all have a blessed day.
Turn up the fight. Turn up the fight.
like that.